Well, today's episode, I'm just feeling excited because it's our second one in this space, and it's really creative to be here. I can feel I haven't talked to a lot of people today. My voice is a little rawr. Anyways, I'm very excited about today's episode. If you're new here, welcome. We love having you here with us. And today we're going to talk about something called post-nut clarity. Now, I'm going to object to that at some point. I'm going to probably end up calling it pre-nut clarity or something. But we're going to look at what that is. It's a phenomenon. People are talking about it. What does it mean? And how does it affect you as a single person and as a person in a relationship?
Well, it was actually a couple of posts that we saw. It's kind of trending on Instagram and other social media platforms. And so everyone's talking about the importance of, having clarity on mate selection after you have a nut, after you release. And it wasn't just for men. It was actually a woman that we first heard it speaking about how she will give herself an orgasm in order to feel like she chooses a partner better.
Well, I have a lot of thoughts on that. So we'll get there. But did you want to share anything else about those episodes in terms of what inspired you to talk about this today?
Well, it's this overarching belief that when you have a sexual impulse, or that even desire in general, sexual desire is something that distracts you away from making good decisions, from doing the things that you need to do. It's as if there's this energy that you just need to knock out so that you can get back to your regular life.
I would say that is true for some people.
And it is, but when you have a healthy understanding of your sexual energy, a healthy embodiment of what becomes sexual sovereignty, then your desire becomes a compass towards the things you want, as opposed to it being the distraction, and always driving you towards the things that you don't want. So the important piece that we're really going to be addressing here is, well, first of all, just kind of busting this myth.
Yeah.
What is post-nut clarity, first of all? What is this myth around it? What is your proposed idea of pre-nut clarity? And then the second part, the members portion, we're getting into how we can actually use this. And we'll even talk a little bit about prolactin and some other maybe neurotransmitters, some hormones. Some hormones that affect, because this doesn't just have to do with mate selection, it also affects the dynamics inside your relationship and just having a better understanding of the way that you have an orgasm and when you're doing this on your own with your partner and the implications that arise from it.
It's a really big difference. So I think we should explore, yes, for a lot of people who don't have any connection to their eroticism and really understand what is this current that's moving through me and it's motivating me to do something. Oh, I need to just do that in this instant, immediately, and the impact of that impulsiveness and how it tends to lend toward either bad decisions or regret or shame or, a lot of things can come from.
And I would even say, ultimately, how do you start to build a sexual charge that adds to your life, as opposed to the only way that you can deal with a sexual charge is just to dissipate it?
Correct. So when I was teaching a lot of workshops and I started to also work with men, this was one of the topics that would come up a lot. And I'm like, why are you in such a rush to dissipate this feeling? What about this feeling is so agitating? And so I think we can explain that in this episode, looking at the difference between sympathetic arousal and also really relaxed arousal and the role of being able to understand that, cultivate that in yourself, and how much liberation and freedom and lucidity can come from that.
Well, to me, it's no different of a discussion when it comes to building up a sexual charge than, well, why are you going to accumulate knowledge? Why are you going to exercise and build energy? Why are you going to eat food? And the thought that building up knowledge is going to have you go into these maleficent plans, or if you build up, your nutritional value inside your body, then you're going to go and expend the energy in a bad way. Or if you strengthen yourself or learn self-defense, that you're just going to go off and beat up people or misuse that strength, to me has more to do with a lack of maturity around these things as opposed to
the thing itself.
The thing itself being just a negative force that needs to be dissipated. In fact, if all you do, I would say, is that when you feel sexual energy, the quickest way is to dissipate it, then you're going to be in this pendulation that will never actually give you the maturity to use it correctly, and then it will have a tendency to come out sideways. So It's really about how do we harness this energy to create the lifestyle and relationships that we want.
And, I think a lot of these discussions come up with younger people who are in college or university, and they just finally left home and they have their freedom for the first time and they're around like so many cool peers, and it's all fresh and new and exciting and a little bit stressful, and you want to fit in, and I don't know, there's a lot going on. And so, and in that population of people, there's not a lot of fluency in the realm of having great sex. We have a little bit of literacy, but most of what young people understand, and I would have to say all people at this point, understand around sexuality is really limited. And so that's their options. And so I'd love to, what does it specifically PNC stand for?
Okay.
And what does it mean?
I love how it's become an acronym now.
Yeah.
So let's go into post-nut clarity, this idea. In
PNC.
fact, maybe we should just play the clip and let people hear like what the concept is in general.
Okay.
So let's just go ahead here. So this is an interviewer that is actually talking about what post-nut clarity is for herself.
I feel like men will really relate to this. Realized how much less insane I feel right after I orgasm. Like if I really wanted to have sex with somebody and I just make myself come right after, I'm like, so glad I didn't invite that guy over. I don't want to have to deal with that guy. Like it is that post-orgasm clarity or like post-nut clarity like guys talk about, where right after I'm like, oh, I'm good. Like I'm totally good. I feel like.
So impressions, or let me summarize quickly.
Yeah.
So essentially we have someone here who's saying that when she's getting turned on and feeling horny, she has a tendency just to choose a guy that might not be best suited for her. Therefore, she gives herself an orgasm and then it's like, problem avoided. Actually, I shouldn't call this guy. I shouldn't meet up with this person.
Yes.
So again, getting back to the point that a sexual charge causes you to make bad decisions.
Well, okay. So first of all, yes, in some ways it can, because if you're really horny and you can't handle just the feeling of arousal and you're like, I gotta get rid of this, you will do. Like the person closest to you, whoever, it doesn't matter what they look like at that point, you're just so horny, you're like, you will do. Then of course that in that moment, you're not making like the best decisions. However, often that's not a mate selection. That's just a I'm horny selection. So you can't really equate the two. It's not about finding your lifelong partner in that moment. You're just horny and you want to get off, and there's the.
So first of
the
all,
thing.
what you're saying is, if you are just wanting to have a hookup, and you do this in a way that's healthy, there's nothing essentially wrong with that, as long as you can clearly state and let it be known that you have a clear beginning, middle and end to it. Or even if you're going to have repeats, that it's still the context of like, hey, I know what I'm doing here. I'm not heading into a longer-term relationship. I'm going to try and make that person become the long-term relationship partner.
I think it's important because, I mean, she's a female, so I don't know if it's more criteria on the female side. It certainly was not for me. I was not ever looking for a relationship. I was looking for sex. So I did have those surges of like, and I'm like, ooh, and like, I had those experiences. And as I became more socialized and started to understand social dynamics more and my own body a little bit more, this is pre-jade egg time, I started to see like, if I didn't go right away with that person and then he was in my community and I got to know him, I'm like, oh, thank God I didn't have sex with that guy. But I hadn't given myself an orgasm. I was just taking a pause and like, okay, maybe I'll just go home and play with myself, but I'm not going to make that decision. But it wasn't a post-nut clarity. It was just having had enough experience going, yeah, I'm not sure, like right now, because I am very horny, but I think I'll pass tonight versus not passing.
So there was an ability then to keep the sexual charge.
Yeah.
And why would you do that? Keep the sexual charge and still make a good decision.
Yeah.
Either I'm glad that I chose this one just for tonight, or just for longer, or that I just decided not to.
Yeah.
So how did that start to, well, not how did it happen, but like,
I think
did that start to happen at one point?
It was experience. However, where it really became super clear was when I started to use the jade egg. And that's because the very first times I started using it, I had this profound experience of, oh, wait a minute, that's that feeling that the horniness is driving me toward, and I just got it on my own, alone. That's weird. I like it. And so then I would wear it almost like a soother, because my pussy was very hungry. She was like, I'll take that one, and I'll take that one, and I'll take that one. I'm like, hey, we're not doing that.
All in one day?
Yeah, she didn't care. She's like, I'm hungry, feed me. So having the jade egg inside would just give her something to like help move whatever that intensity, the energy, she needed something to squeeze and move around. And so that felt, in my body, like I wasn't avoiding having the desire. I wasn't avoiding my turn on, I was addressing it. But at the same time, it was allowing me to, as I was turned on and owning my desire, I didn't choose always what was available. And I would kind of feel like, you're not quite good enough for me now. I don't know, there was a whole shift of discernment, of energetics, of attitude, of like, this person's gonna be a bit of trouble because they, So it was really interesting. I became more lucid in grounding myself in my arousal versus dissipating it.
And I believe that is such an important factor, is what you're mentioning, is your own self-practice. And you have that even before the jade egg.
Yes.
And the ability to be able to meet oneself so profoundly, it sets a standard that then others need to meet. And therefore then your desire, of which you've already set a high standard on, of how that should be met, will be then met by the other person. In fact, I will typically ask someone who's choosing, like, I keep choosing the same partners, they do this thing, they don't really care about me, they just come quickly, they just try and get it over with. And I will typically ask, like, well, tell me about your own self-pleasuring. They're like, oh, it's just something I do to get it over with at the night. And I'm like, you're choosing guys
that
or
behave
girls
like you,
that behave exactly like you do to yourself. And this is what you're calling it.
What does that say about you and me?
So that's part of then the sexual maturation process. And if you don't address this at some point in your life, or if you don't address it when you're young, or whenever it is, it will continue with you. So the next thing that I think that she's also speaking about is this. It's kind of like, well, an orgasm actually like levels out your sexual arousal, meaning like it actually takes it away, it dissipates it. And
yes.
But I've heard you speak so many times that there are ways that you can pleasure yourself that actually build more arousal, more desire, but because you've grounded it, it seems to give you creativity directive in life.
So she's probably buzzing one out. So
buzzing one out meaning?
Using a vibrator, coming quickly and having it be over. So sympathetic orgasm has a crash.
Yeah.
You go up and you crash and you're done. You're like, I'm done. And
that's that prolactin spike.
And we can see it with women who are like, I've had my one orgasm, I don't want any more sex. Or I've had my two, I don't want any more sex. However, when you start to build interoceptive awareness, when you start to understand that the turn on isn't just localized in your genitals, it actually can spread through your whole body, and you start, how would you say, upgrading your capacity to experience arousal and pleasure, because I feel like we have really low capacity for that. So as that capacity can increase, then you're like, I kind of want to keep growing this sensation versus, feeling the tiniest little beep and then it's really disappointing if you understand what's on the other side of it and what everyone here capable of.
I mean, we had a whole episode on this called The Hollow Orgasm, where you'd had a slight injury and the doctor was like, no, you need to only squeeze your pelvic floor.
No pushing down.
No expanding that pelvic floor. And so it was leading then towards these more sympathetic states. And I mean, I remember our sex life started to kind of follow the the industry standard or more of the norms, which is like, oh, orgasm, okay, I'm done. Like, don't, like, let's not connect, let's not have any more. Like, it was like, it was regular. It was actually like what our clients would typically describe, what could be even sort of your standard good sex life.
I think we're just used to, in this particular day and age, we're used to swiping, we're used to scrolling, we're used to things like we can order food and have it delivered in like very quickly. Like we're no longer used to the way actually our bodies are designed historically to deal with, is that things do take a little bit of time and attention, investment of self. And when you do that, like whether you're gathering berries or whatever it might be,
if you're ordering Mickey D's.
Yeah, there's something else that changes in the body, and you become, it's almost like sex isn't this thing that happens like this little spiked event way over here. Sexuality is just becomes an inherent everyday part of your flow. And so self-pleasuring for me just got interwoven with, like, if there was a period of time where I was helping lead a dive store and a martial arts school, and I was doing body work and like massage and like all kinds of things. And I always found a time wherever I could be to touch myself and say a little hello, even if I didn't take myself to orgasm, just as a way. It was like a natural way of allowing this to not build to a point where it gets agitating.
Well, I think I've heard you speak about it as a way to self-regulate, to maybe even, to energize oneself, versus this, okay, I just need to flatline it. So that way then now I can like finally have peace.
But I've seen this behavior outside of sex too. So I've seen people who suddenly get this idea, and the idea might be like this little popular thing that's floating around. They're like, I want that, and they obsess on it, and they obsess on it, and they finally, maybe it's like some kind of party that they have to go to, and they go, and then they're like, it was just kind of lame, and they took all my money, and then I didn't really
or maybe they
have the thing.
They enjoy it the first time, but then it's diminishing returns, or they have to try and make it more and more
But
extreme.
often it's almost instantaneous that the thing they thought that they really wanted is like, they go, and then there's a letdown.
You see this a lot with binging on candies, or any kind of like sugars, or maybe even like the fast food industry, where you're just like, you crave it, you do it,
too,
and then you just like crash.
In the psychedelic culture of people who are like, they go, the Saturday night party, and they take whatever the things they take, and then they can go through 1-2 weeks of depression or being down, and like they're all dysregulated. Versus understanding that these felt states are constantly available to us if we actually just understand some simple ways of breathing and connecting and understanding ourselves. And so then we don't need all these extreme expressions. I mean, we can still have them if we want them, but it's not this where desire seems unreasonable and impulsive. Your desire is actually leading you towards something, but is it the true desire, or is it hijacked by all these weird things that your friends are saying or the media is saying?
Yeah. Well, there's a second video.
Okay.
So to go ahead, it has a slightly different perspective. So this was, I don't remember the guy's name, pretty well-known podcaster, and he was interviewing Dr. Deborah So, did I pronounce her name? So this is what he was saying about his perspective on post-nut clarity.
I think that you're anesthetizing yourself from your sort of mate-seeking behavior by being able to use porn. Almost certainly, to a degree. I mean, there's even the opposite, which is, what was it? Masturbate before you evaluate was a tagline at university, which was, do I really want to sleep with that girl? Let me have a wank first and work out if I still do. And for the most part, the guys were like, no, wasn't that? I like, what was it? I didn't like you. I was just horny. And in some ways, you go, that avoids me from making a mistake. But when you do it en masse and when it's very easily available, do I think...
So what he's saying here is that because porn is so easily accessible, that you then go ahead, you see all of this stuff that's kind of imprinting you in terms of how you should be choosing a mate. And then you go, you wank, as he's saying, I think he's British, and you then have this ejaculation, and then your desire no longer is actually helping you choose the right person. One, because you have this visual performative effect that's throwing you off, but two, also because you're like, it's just easier just to stay at home. I can get the thing that I want. And you don't actually go out, socialize, learn how the opposite sex works in real life interaction, and then be able to choose appropriately.
Real life interaction is so interesting because you can't control it. And you really make so many amazing assumptions. And so there you are in real life and things are happening. And the only way to enjoy whatever arises, because you can't control it, is, do you have a solid relationship here with yourself? And do you know that if you get a no, or you suddenly feel there is a no, I don't want that, that you're not, then contracting in on yourself or feeling angry or any of those things, because sometimes these impulsive, intense desires lead to sideways behaviors, which are not very nice.
Yes.
So what we want is for people to, yes, be connected to this aliveness within them, but not necessarily be connected to this is how it has to be in this very moment. It's like, actually, you can take a breath. You can, you don't need to wank off to, what is it? Ejaculate to evaluate or something.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
I mean, how is it for you? Do you feel more lucid? Are you able to process information more clearly with an ejaculation or without? Or does it even mean, is there any difference? What do you notice?
I feel that all my senses are more online. I am...
Before you ejaculate or after?
When I build up that charge inside myself. And all my senses are online. I feel that I have more information from which I am drawing my conclusions. And then I can decide, okay, yes, this is something that I want. Maybe it's more of a one-night stand. This is something that I want more as a romantic partner. This is something that then I could even see this actually has longer depth of longevity to it. But when I'm able to stabilize and feel good in my body with that charge, then I navigate all those situations much better, as opposed to then kind of going through the ups and downs that can happen, or even just coming from a place of constant depletion if all you're doing is ejaculating.
Yes.
In fact, the cock itself has its own natural intelligence. When it's charged, it will direct you towards, okay, there's some kind of energy that's being shared here. It doesn't have to always lead towards sex, but it literally becomes a compass. And I think that is such an important bit of information that we psychologically as a society have trained ourselves no, hide the erection away. It's always a distraction. It doesn't lead you towards what you want. It's hormones that are out of control and you're going to get in trouble. And so, you had one client reach out to you because he was a teenage boy and he essentially was I am constantly getting erections. I feel embarrassed. I feel ashamed about it. What does that mean about myself? Yeah. And he was becoming socially dysfunctional around it.
Yeah.
And you quickly showed him the inhale push that we talk about, or inhale expand if you prefer that terminology. And he was able to regulate that erection and then also be able to trust it.
Yes.
Oh, here's the energy that's coming from it. I know how to interpret this. And if it is a situation that might be embarrassing for others or myself, I know that I can simply use the inhale push, get it to go down without then needing to lose that energy.
Ooh. I'm curious what we're going to talk about in the second half.
Well, before we get into the second half, I still want to go a little bit more into the why and how this relates to couples. Because if you train yourself to do this as a single person, as a young person, and then this continues throughout your life, when you get into a relationship, then the same thing ends up happening. You have a sexual experience, and it's going to be conditioned into you to have the most common sexual experience that you've had, which is typically with yourself, which is a very quick one. That does not lead to often the most satisfactory sex for either partner.
Well, we did an episode on that, the long-term romance. But we really talk why do you want to build a charge between two bodies? The other thing I wanted to say around coupling or pairing up is if you have that much chemistry with someone where it's so intense, you're rah, and you choose, you're hey, I'm just gonna kiss and smell, but I'm not gonna do anything else. I just wanna, play with this charge. I always tell people, if this is your person and you're going to be with them for the rest of your life, you can take a week, a month, or longer to get to know each other. You don't have to instantly jump into bed. So there's also that side of it where sometimes if it's meaningful to both people and they're feeling something very intense, it's like, yeah, but you can actually relax in that moment.
Well, that brings up another behavior around where I typically will see, and it's normally with guys, that if they feel any sexual tension, they're like, okay, we need to have sex and eliminate the sexual tension. Whereas if you actually are used to building that sexual charge inside of yourself, then you can actually play with the sexual tension between yourself and another potential mate, which I've continually found women really respond highly to it. And it's not just women. I mean, if you can just play with sexual tension, whether you are a lesbian or a gay couple, or male to male couple, that tension can start to build, and you can use that in a way that's actually fun and playful, and also have alternate ways to allow that to be expressed. Maybe it's vocational arousal, and so then you drive it into the project that you're doing. But that's where you develop a sexual maturity around, if there is energy, because we are sexual beings, and that gets activated, it could be fueling something else that doesn't mean just go into sex.
Yes. So I was saying, it just reminded me though of a time where I did slow things down, and later I actually was regretted. I'm like, that would have been a great one night stand, and and it was just more a timing, because when you travel, you sometimes never see a person again. Yeah. And so, anyways, what we're wanting to invoke in this episode, and why this is such an interesting topic, the post-nut clarity, is that
and developing pre-nut clarity.
Yeah, pre-nut clarity. Is just that we want your bedroom IQ to get raised. We want you to activate your erotic intelligence and start to use it everywhere in any situation, so that you are making choices that the next day you feel like, yeah, that was fantastic. I love that experience. I feel good about myself.
You make better choices. You're also more energized in other aspects of life. And that third piece that I didn't talk about in terms of it's not just that you don't have longer lasting sex because you've mechanically trained yourself to not last. You also get to maintain heightened levels of desire for your partner. It typically happens when you go into the refractory period that you're like, okay, you disengage, prolactin shoots up, relatively dopamine goes down, adrenaline goes down, you're not as focused on your partner, and you're just like, okay, let's not engage. And I think any of you listening to this can probably recognize that within yourself, that it's the second that you finish with the vibrator, you're like, put it away, I'm done, don't need any more interaction. Or the guy busts his nut and he's like, okay, doesn't want to make eye contact, doesn't want to talk.
I've also heard when people who are not used to, say, watching porn and they see it, sometimes it just takes a few seconds and they kind of zap themselves out, and then they're flatlined and disinterested in sex for not just that day or the day after, but it could be weeks.
And I think that's what happens a lot of times too, when you just give yourself this more refractory period of orgasm. Not that there's anything wrong with, not that that's always what happens, but normally if you've trained yourself to do this, it does seem to kind of have diminishing returns, and the quote-unquote negative effects seem to build up. So understanding that there are options, you can now intentionally choose how to use that knowledge in your relationship to actually build long-term romance, unbounded desire that just doesn't last for, the period of which the person seems new and interesting.
Well, we both have parents that are still together, and they're still really in love, and they look at each other with curiosity, adoration, they have joy, they laugh. So
that's the beauty of this, is that you start to really find the uniqueness of your partner in every single moment, and it's not just for a specific period of time, which is how we're told, every relationship goes that way. Later you have to focus on different things, like good conversation, the other stuff that you're doing externally, focus on the kids. But your partner's not going to really make you get turned on for the rest of your life. And that doesn't have to be that way. And we've interviewed so many amazing couples, and we can also testify ourselves as well as our parents that, hey, it does not have to be that way.
No. However, if you are curious to start engaging more with your erotic intelligence, to build your capacity to actually feel arousal comfortably, where you're like, oh, I know that feeling, it's a good feeling, it's not an alarming feeling for me, that you can build your capacity to experience pleasure, your tolerance for joy and things that feel good actually goes up, then you definitely want to check out our foundation training. That's at the Embodied Love University, and that's free. You just need an email address, and then also these episodes are all on there as well, with so many other things. But we would love you to learn. We'd love you to grow. We'd love you to come back and do some comments and tell us what you think, because it's really incredible how we can shift the world and our experience of the world just by having a better understanding of our own nature and accepting that, oh my gosh, there is an erotic intelligence inside me and I can access it.
Absolutely. And on the member section of this podcast, we're going to go into, well, how do you do this? As opposed to just why it's important, what the norm is. It's like, well, how do you start to build a sexual charge? What does that even mean? How do you start to generate that between each other and have it not be a distraction, but instead a driving force in your life, just like proper nutrition, proper education, proper exercise, and anything else that is the basics of life that are simply good for you when you know how to utilize them, or at least interact with them in a way that is beneficial. And then we also have an erotic insert, which
I have no idea what this one will be.
What this one's going to be on. But anyways, we always get
I'm interested in you. I'm going to go masturbate so it doesn't happen. That's just weird.
Or maybe you'll masturbate and come to me more interested, or maybe one has to have a nut and talk about, do we have more clarity or less clarity? I don't know. Anyways, we'll figure that one out. Yeah. And but anyways, that's part of the members side, where you'll get to listen in the audio of what we're doing and describing actually what we're experiencing.
Amazing. In this second half, I don't just want to talk about building a charge, because we have discussed that quite a bit. We can go there. But the thing that struck me about this conversation that's being had was that somehow you do not have clarity when arousal comes. Now, if you just take that as the foundation of the conversation, and you are wanting to build long-term romance that's super erotically charged, does that mean a lifelong of no clarity? If you think about it.
Okay, well, I guess that's the question we'll have to answer in the members section then. Let's continue this conversation in the explicit portion of the podcast. To do that, upgrade now.